punta natin mag-
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Investigator Bange. May you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your names for the record?
It's Brandy Bange, Brandi Bange,
And where are you employed?
at the Polk County Sheriff's Office.
What's your position?
I am a forensic investigator.
Tell the jury about what that means.
We respond to different types of calls for service, and we generally just document the scene, collect evidence, and write reports.
How many years have you been employed with the Sheriff's Office?
11 years.
And tell the jury about your education and training and experience.
I have a bachelor's degree from USF. I have a certificate in crime scene from Hillsborough Community College. And then we have 800 hours of on-the-job training, as well as continuing education.
Do you have any estimation about how many scenes you've been to during your career?
I don't know,
Is it in the hundreds
probably yes.
or 100 or more?
Yes, yes.
Now, during your career, have you responded to countless homicide scenes
Yes,
and scenes of violent crimes?
yes.
All right, now, Investigator Bange, directing your attention to Sunday, September 8, 2024, around 7:22 in the evening. Did you respond to the crime scene in this case?
I did.
And tell the jury about when you got there, what was your focus on?
So when we first get to a crime scene, we want to document it the way it is when we get there. So we generally take video and photographs at that time.
Are you one of the more senior forensic investigators that responded to the scene?
Yes.
Earlier, the jury heard from Investigator Ellis. Was she also there performing multiple things along with you?
Yes, she was.
Now, did you have an opportunity to see the outside of the scene as well as the inside of the scene?
Yes.
And what caught your attention about, as you proceeded into the house and made it back to the kitchen, what caught your attention at the crime scene that was of note?
So on the outside of the house, there was an AirPod that was on the ground, like in the mulch area in front of the house. And then there was some blood on one of the steps. And then going into the house, there was another AirPod, or earbud, I should say, on the floor. And then an AirPod case, and then a knife. So it kind of was in a line from outside to inside.
As if something started outside and continued inside?
Yes.
Now, did you have an opportunity to walk further into the kitchen and see the victim?
Yes.
And were you able to see firsthand the wound that she suffered?
Yes.
Tell the jury about what you saw and what that meant to you.
She had an apparent stab wound on her neck. It was a very deep wound.
Have you been to multiple scenes where people have been stabbed?
Yes.
And the injury that you saw and the scene that you saw, was it consistent with somebody being attacked and stabbed?
Yes.
Now, as the scene was documented and photographs are taken, of course, does somebody video record the scene as well?
Yes.
And it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but explain to the jury what you did to accomplish that.
So we just have a regular video camera, just like you would imagine. We go and do the outside of the house, and then we go inside the house and do the interior of the house.
And I take it you did that in this case?
I did.
Have you had an opportunity to previously see State's Exhibit 166, the crime scene video?
Yes.
And does it fairly and accurately depict the scene as you saw it on that night?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the State would move 166 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
It is received.
Now, do you recall, when did you first see the defendant at the scene that night?
It was after 11 o'clock. I can give you the exact time if you need it.
Well, that's all right.
Okay.
But it was after 11 o'clock?
Yes.
Now, as to what the defendant was doing before that, do you know or do you not know?
I don't know.
Where did you first see the defendant?
We have a crime scene trailer there on scene that we usually bring on scene, so it was out in the roadway, parked out in the roadway, and he was brought on the trailer, and then I came onto the trailer.
Describe that crime scene trailer.
It's almost kind of like an RV, but it's made to be more specific to what we do.
And what can you accomplish inside of it?
We take photographs. We have we have processing, fuming processing for fingerprints. We have all different kinds of stuff, supplies. We have that kind of thing on the trailer.
So is it fairly common to bring a suspect into that in order to photograph them and accomplish those other tasks you mentioned?
Yes.
Have you been to crime scenes where family members or spouses are present and their loved ones have been injured or killed?
Yes.
And how do they usually act?
Judge, I'm going to object to relevance.
When you came into contact with the defendant, how would you describe his demeanor?
He was emotionless.
Emotionless?
Yes.
Did that change at all while you interacted with him?
No.
Did that surprise you?
Objection, relevance.
Now, describe to the jury, what was your interaction with the defendant like? What did you do?
So I photographed him, and I obtained some blood swabs that we had seen on him from apparent blood that he had on him.
Judge, I'm sorry, I can't hear very well.
If you could speak up just a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry.
Thank you.
So
If you could answer that question again, please.
yes, so I obtained some blood swabs that were on him. He had some blood on him. I obtained fingernail swabbings from him, and I obtained buccal swabs from him.
Starting with, where were the visible parts of his body and or clothing that you saw blood?
So he had blood on his ear, on the right ear, on the right arm of his glasses, like right here. He had blood on his fingernails. He had blood on his shoes, and some apparent blood on his shorts.
Were you present when somebody from Polk County Fire Rescue washed off blood off of his arms and hands?
No.
So your photographs would have been after that, is that correct?
I believe so, because I didn't see fire EMS, I don't think.
Okay. Do they usually leave the scene after they tend to a victim?
Usually, yes.
And there was a description of that there was blood on from his like elbow to his forearm and on his hands, and that was washed off. Did you see blood on his forearms and his hands to a great extent?
No, I did not.
All right. You mentioned, what did you mention about the fingernails, the swabbings?
Yes.
Tell the jury about what you do to accomplish the swabbings.
So he had some apparent blood on his fingernails, and we take a cotton swab, and sometimes we moisten it with some distilled water to loosen it up, and then swab all around the areas of the fingernails.
Now, his hands weren't bleeding, correct?
No.
I'm sorry, I kind of asked that question confusing. Were his hands bleeding?
No.
So did it appear that any blood on his hands would have been from his mother, correct?
Yes.
Objection.
Now,
Sustained.
in terms of the
I
buckle
move to
swabs,
strike that answer.
Sustained. You'll disregard the last answer, members of the jury.
in terms of the buckle swabs, if you could explain to the jury what buckle swabs are and how you accomplish those.
So we do that the same way. We use a cotton swab, And we just swab the inside of a person's cheek. We do the left cheek and the right cheek.
What's the purpose of that?
Usually it's for DNA purposes.
Is their agency then able to send those buccal swabs from the defendant or from somebody else or a DNA sample off to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement lab for them to do any DNA comparison or analysis that they want to do?
Yes.
So when the defendant was in the crime scene truck, were you able to take photographs?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to see those photographs at the state attorney's office? Those are numbers 100 through 124.
Yes.
And do those appear to accurately depict the photographs that you took?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move 100 through 124 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
They are received.
Did you also take some photographs of the defendant's clothing and shoes?
I did.
And what was the purpose of that?
Just to document anything that I found on the clothing and just to show how it was that day.
And did you have an opportunity to see State Exhibits 156 through 169, indicating the pictures of some of the clothing and shoes?
Yes, I have seen the pictures, yes.
I'm sorry, I still can't hear very well.
I'm sorry. Yes, I have seen them.
Your Honor, the state would move 156 to 169, the pictures of the clothing and shoes and evidence.
Any objection?
No, but I have a question about the numbering. I have 156 to 164 are photos, and 165 is the 911 call.
No, you're correct.
Is
So
the-
what are the exhibits?
I'm sorry, I couldn't read my own writing, Your Honor. It's 156 to 164.
Any objection to those?
No, sir.
All right, the others are not received.
Beyond 164, but states 156 through 164 are received.
Thank you. Investigator Bange, in terms of the defendant's shoes, was he wearing shoes?
Yes, he had on a pair of black tennis shoes.
And did you see blood on his shoes?
Yes, he did have apparent blood on his shoes.
What about his shorts? Was he wearing black, like basketball shorts?
Yes.
And did he have any blood visible on his shorts?
Yes, there was some apparent blood on the shorts.
Where was it? Do you recall, front or back?
It was on the front.
And then did he have a shirt on?
No, he was not wearing a shirt.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, the state would publish the photographs of the defendant.
Amen.
Thank you. Number 100, that's the defendant.
Yes.
.101.
That's a side profile of him.
And if you look on is it on your monitor too?
Yes.
And if you see where I'm pointing, is that what would appear to be some blood on his glasses?
Yes.
I do know that mouse allows you to point as well if you need
Okay.
Well, that would be good. If you could point out to the jury that the blood.
Right here and here.
Moving on to 102,
This is the back of his head.
103.
This is the front of his entire body.
Now, it's a fair statement. He's pretty tall, maybe 6'2" or so.
I'm not sure how tall he is, but he's taller than I am, yes.
104,
Yes, this is just a closer up of his top half of his body.
105,
A side profile of his whole body.
106.
This is the lower half of his body side profile.
I think that's 107, I'm sorry. 108,
This is the back of his whole body.
109,
This is another side profile of his whole body.
110,
This is a mid-range of his arm, his left arm.
111.
This is a picture of his shoe, his left shoe.
And going back to 110, were there some apparent marks on his arms?
Yes, there were.
And any idea how those marks got there?
I don't know.
Or when they got there?
I don't know.
111? Does he
Um,
mention the blood on the shoes?
Yes, this is the shoe with the apparent blood.
And could you, for the jury's benefit, point with that red arrow where you see blood?
Sure. So there's apparent blood in this area here, and then there's more apparent blood here, and then there's some here, and you can see a little bit here. It's light, but you can see it, and then it's on the bottom here.
112.
This is his left leg.
And tell us about that mark on below his knee.
It's an apparent laceration.
113. It's at the back of his leg. What were you highlighting there?
Yes, it was like an apparent abrasion.
114.
That's a close-up of the apparent abrasion.
115.
This is his right forearm.
Were there marks on his right forearm too?
Yes.
Were there multiple marks on both of his arms?
Yes.
Did they look like super fresh, like they had just happened?
They looked fresh.
And when you say fresh, like how fresh?
In the last day.
Were you able to tell how those marks were caused?
No.
$116.
This is his right forearm, and there's some apparent lacerations on the top of his forearm.
$117.
That's his left forearm, and you can see the abrasion or the apparent lacerations.
Have you been at scenes where you've seen people that have cut themselves or marked themselves?
Objection,
Sustained.
Judge.
118.
This is the palm of his hand. This is his other palm.
And is it a fair statement he has no defensive wounds on his hands?
Objection is to the characterization of the
Sustained.
Is it a fair statement that he has no wounds on his hands at all?
Right, I did not see any wounds on his hands.
Going back to 118, so that's 118 and 119.
Yes.
Besides just his hands having no marks on them, did you also get pictures? Well, I guess you did. Pictures of the back of his hands, 120,
Yes, the tops of his hands, yes.
and 121.
Yes, this is a close-up of his fingernails.
Going back to 120, did he have any knife cuts or wounds on the top of his hands?
No.
What about neither in 121? Is that correct?
No, I do not see any.
And then 123.
This is apparent blood that was on his ear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to that.
Yeah.
I can't really see that.
It's
but
very
can you point
small, but it's right here.
Okay.
This is the area that I swabbed.
And then finally 124.
This is a close-up of the apparent blood on the glasses, the right arm of the glasses. And you can see a little bit better now in this picture. There's apparent blood here, here, and I think right here.
All right, now we're going to go to 156, please. All right, 156 appears to be a close-up of something. Tell us what that is.
This is the short, sorry, there's a little bit of a glare. I'm going to move in.
Is
This-
that
You can adjust that if
Okay.
you need to.
There we go, that's better. This is the shorts that he was wearing. This is a close-up photo of the front of his shorts. You can see some apparent blood in the picture. It's kind of hard to see. I can point to it if you need me to.
please?
Okay. Sorry. So this area right here, And then there's a little more here.
All right, we'll move on to 158, the shoes, 159, 160, 161. Could you point to the blood in 161?
Yes, there's apparent blood here, apparent blood here, here, and then all down here on the bottoms of the shoes here and this whole area right here.
162. Is there any blood there?
Yes, right here, 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 and then this area here.
163.
There's apparent blood right here by the laces, this area.
And 164.
There's apparent blood right there.
Investigator Bange, we're going to move on now. Approximately how many minutes do you think that you were with the defendant?
Probably about 20 to 30 minutes.
During those 20 to 30 minutes, did his demeanor change from being emotionless at all?
No, he remained the same.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to publish State Exhibit 166, the crime scene video.
Has been received.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Has it been received?
It has, Your Honor.
Any objection to publication at this time?
No, sir.
You may.
questions?
Cross?
Good morning.
Investigator Bange, the blood on the step that you pointed out to the jury, that was never tested, correct?
I don't know.
So you're not aware of it being tested?
I'm not aware of it, no.
And you don't know when that blood was deposited there, do you?
No, I don't.
In fact, you said you didn't arrive until many hours after the incident, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, because the 911 call came in at about 6:10 p.m.?
Right. We arrived on scene, but I didn't go into the residence until much later, yes.
When you arrived on scene, do you remember what time it was? You may have already said. I'm sorry if I don't.
I can look at my report. I believe it was around. I got there at 7:22.
So over an hour after the 911 call came in.
Yes.
Colin was already outside of the house when you arrived,
He was not inside the house. I don't know where he was.
and EMS had already, or Polk County Fire Rescue had already been to the house, been inside the house, stomped around, did life-saving actions, and then left, correct?
Yes, I believe they went into the house, from my knowledge, yes.
You also said that Colin, at some point you're aware, had blood on his forearms and hands.
Yes,
How did you become aware of that?
just now in court.
Oh, okay, so you weren't aware before.
That he had blood on his arms prior? No. I did know about the fingernails. He had blood on his fingernails.
Right. I was talking about the arms and hands. And he could have dripped blood on his way out of the house when he was escorted by law enforcement, correct?
I don't know.
But it's possible.
It's possible, yes.
The blood that you pointed out on Colin's fingernails and his glasses and his right ear, you're aware that Colin did several things at the instruction of the 911 operator, correct?
I don't know. I do know that they sometimes give instructions, but I have not heard this call.
So let me ask you this. If the 911 operator had told Colin to get towels or something to absorb blood and place it on Kathy's neck, and he did that, he could have gotten blood on his fingernails that way, correct?
Yes, that's possible, yes.
And there was, in fact, a bloody towel by her neck when you entered the scene.
Yes.
And you're aware that he also did, well, maybe not. If the 911 operator had instructed him to kneel and do CPR on Kathy, and he did that, that could explain how he got blood on various parts of his body, right?
It's possible, yes.
And if the 911 operator had instructed Colin to get the knife far away from him, he could have gotten blood on his hands that way as well.
Yes.
And the knife was, in fact, far away from where Kathy Griffith was laying, correct?
It was in the same room, but yes, it was not right near her.
You said that, oh, well, let me go back to the blood. You don't know if Colin, in his obeying the instructions of this 911 operator, came in contact with the blood that was everywhere as he's tending to his mother. Maybe at one point he had blood on his hands and adjusted his glasses,
I don't know.
but it's possible, right?
It's possible.
The blood on the bottom of the flip-flop, you didn't really talk about that. You talked mostly about the blood on the shoes that were collected from Colin. But there was, in fact, blood on the bottom of one of the flip-flops that was laying in the kitchen.
Yes, I believe there was.
Finally, you said that Colin was emotionless when you dealt with him. You're aware that people can go into shock sometimes from a traumatic event,
Sure.
so that's one possibility here too.
Of course, I'm not a doctor.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Is the witness released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Thornhill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot I do have one other question.
You may.
I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
The photo of Colin from inside the trailer, there's a mark on his torso about midway between chest and hip.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
That corresponds with a slit in his shirt, doesn't it?
There was a slit in the shirt.
In the torso area.
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Any redirect now, Mr. Levine?
No, thank you.
Still free to go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.